Everybody, we are covering 5 Diablo 4 tips, how to dominate early and end game with mercenaries. We are going to be covering how exactly they work, what are the best choices for your build, and ultimately how to get the most out of them in early and end game. What you want to do as you go through the original story quests, you'll actually stumble across them naturally. You will get your first mercenary just by doing the quest line. From there, he'll eventually take you to a base, and you can unlock each one of the 4. It also opens up, if you have at least 2, you also open up your reinforcement as well. So a quick look at the menu. Once you have everything unlocked, you're going to have your 2 mercenaries selected, your top one and your reinforcement. When I click on my top one, this is going to be the one that actually wanders around with me. He has a skill tree. We can fill out the skill tree. Whoever is in the position of your main, they are going to have a skill tree that you can affect as you go through, but they'll be in this top position. Now, the other choice is a reinforcement. This person is not with you the whole time and their entire tree doesn't affect you. It's only one of their skills. So if you've unlocked the skill, it'll show up here and you can choose it. And then you have a trigger. So we'll go into more detail about how to make the best choices there. So now let's get to actually picking our very first mercenary. I do want to do something to show you guys like directly. You get the skill tree and you do have to unlock points with experience as you go. So you'll get eventually the 4 points. If we look at the skill tree here, I say hire mercenary. This skill tree, you get 4 total points to put into it. It is a chain, you can't double up. Well, it's not like I can get both of these. I can get one or the other. So it's kind of a choice of splits. So as I go down, it's between this one and this one. Further, this one and this one, so on and so forth, all the way down. So I get one chain. So it does matter, like what you pick up here determines what you get down here, and you can't get the both of them. So you are constantly making a comparison. But I want to help you guys make that comparison first. So what I'm going to do is actually just take this away. We're going to go back to 0. And I'm going to show you how I logically think through it and talk a little bit about how it fits to my build, which is an important part of this. The whole thing matters. It's not like how strong the mercenary is, because if you're doing this correctly, you're going to be the strongest source of damage in your build, hopefully, and the mercenary can help out a little bit, and we want to find how to get the most out of them. So I'm not going to necessarily go through all of these and determine it. For the best choice, you kind of want to know what chain, and if you're trading this versus having something on this chain, that can make a difference to which direction to go. I'm just going to look at the comparison between the top 2. So you have a base skill, and this skill is, as soon as you hire this mercenary, this is active. So when you would be damaged for at least 15% of your current life at once, Raynor comes to the aid and negates the damage and knocks down close enemies for 2 seconds and grants you unstoppable. So it's knocking everything down, it's negating the damage you were going to do. So we can think of this as kind of one of those oh crap buttons. When something goes wrong, you can get out of it automatically. It's already set to go as long as this mercenary has been chosen. So next, we are going to look at its core skill. These 2 are the 2 core skill choices. One is shield charge and the other is ground slam. Now, thing to note, we have that first top part. So the thing that says cooldown 11 seconds, that's how often it's going to go, obviously. Raynor rushes forward aggressively, dealing 7,000, whatever the damage is based on where your character actually is, physical damage, and taunting nearby enemies for 4 seconds. The second part of this is selecting a mercenary core. It tells you that it changes the weapon. So this side of the chain is going to give him a tower shield and a basic attack of shield bash. So that's the attack he's going to be doing all the time before one of his core skills or his abilities queue up. Then this ability, the shield bash, Raynor bashes enemies with a tower shield, dealing 5,000, whatever the damage is, and fortifying you for 5% of your maximum life. So this ability, every time he attacks us, he's constantly giving you more fortify. I really like that. Let's compare what we're going against over here. Right here, brutalizes the ground, dealing whatever damage, and slowing enemies by 30% for 6 seconds. Targets in the center of the slam are slowed by 60% instead, so an increased slow there, slowed a lot. This is another thing that can save your butt. If he comes in and does this ability, well, it's another thing that keeps you out of trouble and kind of keeps the monsters at bay. Now, the switch here is going to be this weapon choice. We're now using a round shield, and we're going to have shield strike. So Raynor swings a round shield at enemies, dealing 5,760 physical damage. Every 3 swings, Raynor heals you for 5%. So this is another way to heal your life, and the other way was adding a fortify. That's kind of I think, more of the choice here. And I'll explain why. Early on, when you're choosing these, the damage matters a lot. Like, it could actually help your clear significantly while you're still getting your build together. So in early game, I'm okay with kind of leaning into the damage and saying, hey, let's at least get that and see how it feels. Now, over time, eventually, I'm going to replace most of the damage he could even do, and it's going to look ridiculous what he can do compared to what I can do. So I'm going to choose more based on what skills I want, what support do I want. So Can he put status effects on things? Can he add more damage? Can he bring monsters in close so that I can kill them faster? Whatever it is, I'm looking at how he can help me kill things more efficiently and more easily, or save my butt. That's really what I'm looking for. So I'm going to choose this one. I'm going to assume that I really do like the fortified. I like it building up over time instead of just my life. There may be plenty of times with this particular build that my life is full and doesn't need more life, but fortified could help. So we're going to go this route. And now here's your secondary choices. Rainier grants you 15% armor. That is pretty freaking awesome. And then we have Rainier slows surrounding enemies by 40%. I think this is an easy win. I'm having trouble with my armor all the time. I could spec into it, but I kind of have a lot of things that I want to lean into for damage. So I like getting an extra 15% here. Now, just, out of curiosity, let's look on the other side, because he has some really good abilities that'll help you early game. Right here is the 15% resistance to all elements. That's pretty cool. When you're using a healing potion, he actually taunts everyone around. So as soon as you decide you need healing and you hit that Q, he's also then taunting and pulling the monsters off you. That could be pretty cool. The one, though, early game that might matter, if I'm starting to push into the torment levels and I don't have all of my resistances on point, I may very well switch to this side to get access to this. But right now, I'm going to go with armor. So I think over time, early on, you won't have all your resistances usually handled or your armor, and you kind of choose what you need most. And I think that is a really good way to use him. So that brings us to our next choice. We have to choose between these two available skills. The first is Provoke. Rainier taunts enemies around you for 5 seconds, and then you gain additional damage reduction for each target up to 20%. Damage reduction is super useful. It is very, very powerful for staying alive as you push up in later ranks. So this is a very promising skill. What's the other one? Rainier strikes the ground 3 times, each burst dealing the damage that you are going to do, and pulling in enemies. The final burst of 2,000 damage for more physical. I'm, again, not worried about the damage. Right now, for how my build is if I'm actually using this right here, Quill Volley. And on my middle skill, like if I go down the chain, the next one is Quill Volley makes enemies vulnerable for 3 seconds if they're hit with at least 3 feathers. So if he is clustering them up, then it's a lot easier if I'm really close to them to then hit them all and hit a bunch with multiple feathers at the same time, causing the vulnerable, thus spiking increased damage for how my build's set up. So right now, for how it's going, this sounds actually very, very solid for bringing the enemies in, and it may be worth getting rid of the taunt and the damage reduction. But this is a close one for me. I might go either way and may play with it as I kind of move forward. So for now, we're going to choose Crater. And now let's look at the final skills we're going to be choosing. When Rainier's Vigilance is triggered, so that is his main ability. That's the oh crap button that comes in and saves you automatically. You don't have to worry every time you take a big 15% hit damage, he's going to come in. So this, whenever it's triggered, he is then also going to make your next 4 core skills deal for 10 seconds, deal 25% increased damage. And it's also going to decrease the cooldown of his main attack. So he has the chance to basically protect you more often. So that is really solid. Second one is that his final Crater Burst inflicts vulnerable. So this is where we're looking at status effects. What is the effect that he's doing to allow you to do more damage? Let's say that I wasn't running a build that basically just spams things with vulnerable all the time, and I might actually have an issue. Or early game, I don't have as many quills going out, or they're not charging as fast, and it's hard for me to stay in close range, so I'm not hitting as many with multiple feathers. Then this could be something that could apply the vulnerable for me, so I can still get all the benefit of additional vulnerable damage. Now, I do want to explain, just in case everybody is not 100% clear, the way that vulnerable damage works ultimately is if you get the damage bonus. So let's say that we got a vulnerable damage increase of like 200%. And then we're trying to choose between the 200% increase, which sounds really awesome, or we're trying to decide if we should do 80% base damage. You might think automatically take the 200. But let's say that your build is only causing about 20% of the monsters to actually be vulnerable, or at least 20% of the time when you're hitting monsters that they are actually have a vulnerable status on them. So that means that that 200 quickly becomes 20% of that, because not all the monsters that aren't vulnerable while you're hitting them are not going to get the same increase in damage. So now effectively that 200% for your build at the current standing is going to be 40%. So then taking the 80% is a double increase if you just take the straight damage. This is where the status effects can really apply, because if you have 100% of the monsters with the status effect, then that's 200% and you get all that bonus. That's awesome. So there may be times where you could move it to this. He could cause more of the monsters you're hitting to have vulnerable damage, and thus having your vulnerable damage increase really matter. Now, if you don't If you're not running a vulnerable damage increase percentage somewhere, then that doesn't matter as much. But this is how you can get them to basically help your build complete what you're doing and do massive amounts of damage. So for this particular, for where I'm at, I'm going to go with this one. I like the extra damage. I am hitting a ton with the core skill, and that's my focus, is to get my core skill to just do a ton of damage, and it's doing really fast. So that 25% is like obliterating whatever happens. So right after, you know, he hits something, or right after his main attack hits, then I'm just like getting an extra giant boost just to destroy everything in front of me. It feels really, really good. So that's kind of how you go through and make the choices. You can then go in on this side and just test and make sure that none of these later ones made the most sense for what you're really trying to do. But this is what I highly recommend, is that we actually go through and think about it for our build. And so in early game, adding the damage, doing things that help you to clear faster, maybe even applying that vulnerable when you're not applying it as well, those might make more sense in early game. You know, you may want to go that resistance if you're having issues with that, or the armor. In later game, then you're going to be looking at their damage is almost irrelevant. It's what other status effects and effects they have on the monsters and how they actually keep you alive. Those are going to be the things that matter most. So now let's look at one more. I'm not going to go through in as much detail. I'm just going to jump over to this guy. Aldkin is very different. Let's say we hire him. So he's going to have a different base skill. So right off the bat, we're trading the oh crap that Rainier's always going to be there whenever we need it the most. And we're going to be trading it for Aldkin's main ability. So he occasionally loses control of the curse, and then he does one of these two things. I'm not going to go into tons of detail. And what he does, which attack he does, is based on what chain you pick. So again, as I go through here, I'm going to be looking for similar things. Let's go down to, let's look at this one really quick. So this one is he desiccates the area and then slows all the enemies. So that could be a crowd control piece. Let's see what the other choice was. So this one, when he actually attaches the tethering to 10 monsters and over 3 seconds does damage to them. When it expires, he'll then have a burst of damage and then stun them. So I'm sitting there going, oh, okay, maybe stun would be cool. You know, they're stuck in place. They're not just slowed down. This could be more valuable. But then when I think about my build, I'm not waiting 10 seconds to kill an enemy. So by the time it's done and hitting that stun part, it's kind of a lot has gone on. So this is where I started going, okay, well, it makes a lot more sense to do Rainier, or this ability doesn't make sense to me. I'm going to choose this one. And remember, at the end of the day, no matter what you do end up choosing, that you go out and actually test it with your build and see how it feels. If you switch that up, and it's cool. So we don't have to come back here to make those changes. I just want to make that clear too. Once you have them equipped, this is where you have to come and say, hey, I want you as my, my primary. I want you as my main mercenary, and I want you as my reinforcement. You come here to do that. But once they're in there, it's always going to be in your menu, and you can come and change the tree as you wish. So quickly switching out points and retrying. There is no cost for doing so. So if I just take all the points out, I just get to respend the points. It doesn't really matter. So I can easily come and test this other chain and get out there and see, hey, did that feel better? And I can feel it now. So what I would do is just do a couple mobs, do a few mobs with this setup and then switch it and do a few mobs with that one. And that should tell you how the feeling is. If you want a good test, obviously do it for a little while longer. But that's usually enough. If there's a big change at all, you'll feel it. Now let's get into the other thing, because I do love that they added this. You have these cool 4 characters. They all have unique abilities. I love that another one can come in as a reinforcement, at least do one ability. It doesn't get the same effect as your tree. So we're going to go and we're going to look at that really quick. So let's go Varnya. I'm going to actually withdraw. So we'll do it as if I just selected her. So right now, just to show you guys, if I withdraw her, I do not have the secondary. There is a benefit for this, and I'll talk about that in a second. But if we come to her, we're going to set her. I want to hire her as my reinforcement, so I enlist her. You're going to get this. It's usually going to be blank. There's not going to be a set here. This is what I've been running. But if you've unlocked her ability in her tree, or at least have the points to unlock it, then you get a choice from all of her skills. You only get one for the reinforcement, because the reinforcement is going to run in, do something, and then get out, while the other mercenary is staying with you the whole time to help you fight. So I'm going to look for an ability. Let's say this one is recommended for my build, because again, I'm trying to do something particular, and it actually matters because the skill that I'm connecting this to is going to make that skill more powerful. So Varyana crushes the ground. I probably said her name wrong earlier. Crushes the ground with her mace, leaving a tremor that deals massive physical damage over 3 seconds. But more importantly, as especially in endgame, she knocks the enemies down repeatedly. So she is knocking them down, kind of keeping, if there's a cluster, she's gonna keep them in place. Why that matters is I've tied it to queuing. So she gets this one skill, but she's gonna have a timer. When she uses it, her base goes gray and a cooldown kind of like clock starts around. And when she's full colored again, not shadowed, then she'll be able to strike again. Once her cooldown is ready, though, what is going to happen is it's going to wait for this trigger. Whatever I set this to be, is going to determine when she actually does this. So she may be ready and sitting there for a while, but I'm waiting until I do this ability. So this ability Scourge, what it does is it actually applies poison into a large radius around me and fears them. So I do like, as we talked earlier, having the volleys, having everything close, having the volleys be able to hit multiple things is going to matter for my build a lot for applying that vulnerable. So if I'm fearing them and they're running off, it was kind of annoying. It also slows down your clear. So if I have it trigger her slam when I'm using the Scourge, she knocks them on the ground and keeps knocking them to the ground while they're poisoned and stuck, and then I can just clear up the rest. So this is a nice combination, but let's look at triggers, what else is possible. So I can pick any of my skills. If I was going to have it trigger more often or as often as I possibly can, I might connect it to my core skill that I'm spamming nonstop, or even this ability down here that says basically when I cast any skill, this is going to trigger it, and then she's going to start her clock again. But really thinking about what you want it to be. So this one's become injured, so that's having a life drop under a certain amount. This one is whenever you're crowd control. This can be really nice. A lot of like times there was like builds where it was really awesome, but if you got crowd controlled or repeatedly crowd controlled, you're done. This allows that to break up. So if her abilities are ready, the minute you're crowd controlled with anything, she can then come in and basically, depending on what this ability does, help you. So this one, she's knocking everybody to the ground. That's pretty solid. So you may look and see if there's even a better fit, but really knowing what your build is doing and what you're trying to accomplish with this will give you some really cool combinations that get the most out of it. So I did say earlier that I was going to talk about having like one choice over the other. I just write down here, if you look at this, assist you on command, rapport earned with your reinforcement is reduced by 50% while a hired mercenary is active. That may seem like a big detriment to you, but what that does is actually allows you to gain half the rapport for both. So instead of just getting 100% rapport for this mercenary, you can actually do it for both. So if just to look at that, so we're looking at the rapport. When you do the rapport, it unlocks a bunch of stuff that goes up. This is how you get her skill points, is when you unlock the early rapport, and then she starts giving you extra stuff. So there's some legendaries, there's some upgrades, there's these coins, and there's these chests. There's a lot of benefits. And as you keep it going, eventually you're going to unlock to this last one. This, I know they say both X, but this one is the repeat one. Once you have gotten her full and you get this last chest, now you're just opening again and again, you're opening coins. And we are going to go through exactly how to spend these to get a lot of value from them depending on where you are in the game. So, but when you're doing this, if you're doing half to both, this can matter a lot. Now, I think the earlier levels need less, so it's not like an even spread. So if you are trying to get to this level and one is you're doing this like last one, then you may want to actually focus and just have all the rapport going to the one you're trying to get to its last level. So if I look at that, I can say, okay, well, I want all the rapport going to her. He's already maxed out. And if I'm just trying to level her, then I can either make her my main or leave her here. But I can actually go, if I do that, I just take him and I dismiss him. And then when I come back in here, now she's getting all of the rapport. So this can help me just to get those rapport chests early if I want them. I have found the most value is just basically kind of keeping my main mercenary that helps me the most, and then just kind of switching out my secondary so that I'm kind of rotating through all of them. They're all leveling. I'm still getting the rapport. So that's probably the best way to do it. Also, that extra, you get to play with their skills a little bit and see if maybe I want to mix this one into my main build at this point. So, but again, early, test the heck out of this. See what it actually feels like in your build and just equip them, run through and test it. Be willing to switch it up. Now, to switch the characters, you have to come back here, but the skills, like, go nuts. That is sitting in your inventory or over here in the mercenary menu. You can change this as much as you want. So definitely use that and make sure you're getting something that really works for you. Now, what do we do with all the rapport that we're gaining? Once we've kind of unlocked their skills, we've unlocked their abilities, we've gotten some chests. Well, the next benefit is to actually use the mercenary shop. At a certain point, when you start unlocking these things, you will eventually get Rainhair's daughter, that for some reason in the storyline, well, actually, I won't spoil that. But anyway, she has now showed up and she is going to actually help us out as she is the store. So when I click on her, I get these options. What's really cool about these, unlike purchasing from other places, I float over and it tells me exactly what it is. So this is a great way to go shopping for an early game for aspects I don't have. So if I want to fill out my Codex of Power, I may just buy this to then break it down to have that ability, or it has a better run of that ability. I might want to do the same. So at least I can say, or it's perfect for what I want. It's the upgrade that I do actually want. Then I can also just buy it straight out and know what I'm getting as I purchase. Now, where I found it to be the most beneficial early on is actually this salvage material cache. Well, it's not always material, but it's like salvage something. So salvage equipment cache or whatever it is. This is giving you basically a cache of a bunch of abilities around this. So this is going to give me a ton of materials if I buy that. The one I'm looking for in early game though, and we'll see, I'm going to actually buy this because I think that's good. We're going to reset the stock. So every day you get one free reset, just know that. So I can reset this here. And now we're going to get all kinds of things. Now I have a masterworking, I'm definitely get that. But this is the one that comes up early, is a resource aspect cache. This just has a bunch of legendary items with the intent more or less to start filling out your Codex of Power. Here's another one, utility aspect cache. I have enough. I'm going to grab actually both of these. I'm going to grab more savage material and my masterworking cache. Those seem to be the most valuable, but I do like looking and saying if I'm looking for a particular aspect, I can do that. Now after that, it's 100 to re-roll. I have done it when I was really like trying to get a certain aspect. I was just like, hey, I really do need this to finish my build. And I've done that, but it's 100. And these, so you can usually either get 2 caches or you can get 1 reroll. So if I just wait till tomorrow, then I'll have another free reroll. And so that's pretty solid. I think it does also do a reset between days, so just know that. But let's open one of these aspect caches just so you can see it firsthand. Material. Okay, utility. So if you guys don't know, the aspects are generally in groupings. You have your utility, you have your defense, you have your mobility, you have your attack. So whatever they are, so whatever you're looking for, if you know what that is, if you know it's an attack ability you need, then that's the cache you want to save for. You know, that's the one you actually want to open. But let's say I was looking for a particular utility skill. I still don't have it. I open it, it just drops a bunch of legendaries on the ground. In early game, this is really great because these could also be viable things to equip. Later on, it really is just for the aspect, but you get 5 choices. So now I can just look through and this gives me a higher chance on purpose for targeting certain aspects. So let's see. And then I can just, once I have that open, I can actually just go to his anchor here. Oh, that's another thing I did not cover. So they do have the different, like the things that you would normally do, but they're not on the person. They're next to them. So this one is the blacksmith. This is the occultist, that treasure, that toy box there. And then what else is there? This is a random store. So you can actually buy normal things if you want. Your chest is over here. But if I want to go to the blacksmith, I kept coming to him because I'm so used to that in the other towns. But you just hit blacksmith. So I can see in this role, I do have 2 that need to, that I actually don't have the aspects for because that little marker here. But in these, I didn't have that. So I can break these down or sell them or whatever I want to do. But I did not get any new aspects or any upgrades to my aspects. But we can keep doing that as we go. It just gives us another shot at it and increases our likelihood of actually dropping those. Now I do have another bonus, and it's just something that I do want you guys to be familiar with. It is so powerful, but I want to show you firsthand. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make Subo. I'm going to make him my mercenary, and then we're just going to run outside. So Sobu has a special power, and in early game, this is very useful. Resources are a lot tougher before level 60, before you're running in Torment and have been for a while. You are going to find it really tough to always have the resources you need to run different things. And so if you look on my mini map up there, you can see these little orange circles. So that's one part of his ability. He is showing you where all the enemies are. So now if I'm just like kind of leveling experience, I can pick my path to go through the biggest clusters. But the second thing, he's showing you where all the herbs and all the ore is. So now I'm not like spending extra time looking at the sidelines. I'm fighting. Look up on my mini map. I can see that there is an herb coming up here, so I can actually run and grab it. If I'm just short on herbs, I can actually get on my horse and just run to each one of those and not even kill the monsters and just go through a spree to see if I can get enough to either build the potions I want or do whatever thing I'm trying to do with the potion person, if I'm trying to make incense or whatever it is. Then also having the ore makes a big difference. So again, I can run on my horse and I'm just going to go hit this ore. But this is so helpful in early game. It saves you a lot of time of just constantly tracking the edges of what you're doing and still getting the most benefit for getting a ton of herbs. So mercenaries are crazy powerful and add so much. Be sure to not be afraid of testing. As your build changes over time, you're going to want to switch things up and make sure that it is still working to get you the most. Now, if you guys are playing the season, make sure you catch this video where I go through the 5 things I wish I would have known before playing the Spiritborn and the things I wish I would have known before jumping into Season 6.